Okay, good evening. You are welcome to tonight's lesson. So we'll be looking at the subtopic called ecological pyramid. Prior to this, we talk about methods of determining the food chain, and we also talk about some ecological tools and how we use them in estimating the number of organisms and some factors in the environment. So since we know such instruments and tools, we are now looking at ecological pyramid so we can determine the food chain or the flow of energy in an ecosystem by three main points. These are the direct observation and questioning that we talked about last week, and also the gut examination, and the very last one, that is the radioactive or the tracer method. These are the three main known ways we can determine the kind of food an organism eats and how energy flows within the ecosystem. So now our topic for today is ecological pyramid. So the keyword here are the ecological and also pyramid. And I'm sure as math students we've heard the word pyramid, and at least we have a mental or a pictorial view of what a pyramid is. So I would like someone just to come give us the idea when you say pyramid, what comes into your mind. Then from that understanding, we will talk about ecological pyramid. So that will give us at least a pictorial view of what that term means. So anyone, anything that you know about pyramid, we are trying to understand the key word. I'm sure as at now ecology we all do understand. So the new word here in this our lesson will be the pyramid. So when we say ecological pyramid, what does it mean? When we say pyramid, so the first term is pyramid. What does it mean when we say pyramid? Then based on that understanding, we can try to understand what ecological pyramid is. So I invite anyone that is ready or mute your microphone, give me a sign, and I'll invite you to explain what a pyramid is, either in mathematical concept, then later we bring that idea in the biological field or ecological studies. When we say pyramid, what does it mean? What is a pyramid? Okay, I think that is divine. Yeah, divine, you're welcome tonight. It's been a long time we saw you here.
So, my understanding on pyramid is a graphical representation designed to show the biomass or bioproductivity at each trophic level in an ecosystem.
All right, thank you very much. So she has gone a long way to even define what ecological pyramid is. All right, any other when we say a pyramid, what comes into your mind? Okay, so that is divine. She has defined the entire term for us. All right, so when we talk about a pyramid, I'm sure something we have triangular pyramid, and I think a square pyramid, and a lot of them. So a pyramid is a solid structure. If you remember from your math studies, that has a very flat or broad base and a tapering apex. So like the base is stronger, and as you go to the top, it will something like this with maybe two. So this will be a triangular pyramid with three different faces. So I'm sure in the physics lab later when we learn light, you'll get to know the types of prism or lenses that we have at the lab. So a pyramid has a flat base and a tapering end. So that is how normally when you go to Egypt and Islamic countries, we call the pyramid. So that is how they do. So most of the time, every mosque they have such a structure. The base is very flat and broad, and as you go to the top, they meet. So they confluence or they meet at the top, and that is the exact structure we are seeing here. So let's look at the shape that we are having here. We see we have a very broad base. As we are going up, it tapers. So this is the actual view of what we call a pyramid. Let me draw something here for us to see. So once we understand what a pyramid is, so a pyramid looks like something like this: a very broad base and a tapering end as we move. So most pyramid will have three faces. So something like this. Then we say this is a triangular pyramid. So that is why we have it. So the base is very broad. Then at the top it looks steepest. That is pyramid. So here it means that we are representing factors in the ecology, and these factors in ecology that we are representing, it could be the number of the organisms, it could be the biomass or the amount of food that is being transferred over there, or it could also be the energy that is being transmitted in such ecology. That is what we refer to as ecological pyramid. So we are representing such factors in a horizontal or regular stacks, whereby every stack will represent uh, a stage or a trophic level. When we say trophic level, I'm sure by now we all understand what a trophic level is. A trophic level refers to a feeding level that talks about the level in which an organism is getting its food. So, at what stage are you getting your food? Are you the producer? Are you the first consumer or primary consumer, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, or what level are you getting your food? That is what we refer to as the trophic level. So we are making a graphical, a pictorial view. We are representing a factor, a condition in the ecosystem, and we are making them based on the trophic levels. As we move on, it tapers and becomes smaller. So normally when we are arranging books, that is how you do. When you go to the lorry station, and most of the time you see that the loading guys or the carriage people, normally they don't just start packing your things when you come. They sample all the things, they keep them somewhere. Then when they are about to set off, they'll ask, okay, where will you alight? They look at your luggage, then they will know where to put it. So normally the bigger ones will be the foundation, then the lighter and smaller ones will come to the top, fragile ones will be at the top, so that at least it could be stable. When you are arranging your books, to I'm sure you bring the bigger one and the larger ones down, then you put the small books, the small packs and these pocket books at the top. That becomes a pyramid. It sustains it, it balances it, it gives a good equilibrium. So for there be equilibrium and stability in the ecosystem, the base should be larger. That's why foundation are normally stronger, and we spend a lot of concrete trying to make it stronger to hold the whole entire building. So the base is normally broad. That means more organisms are there. We have a lot of what we are looking. As we go to the top, it reduces so that the flow can continue. That we call ecological pyramid. But right to what I have drawn here, you could see that there is one that is inverted. We will talk about that very soon. We refer to that as inverted pyramid. And we have the pyramid of numbers that are inverted. We will explain that very shortly. So, as we said in brief, ecological pyramid is a graphical representation that illustrates the distribution of organisms across different trophic levels in the food chain. So it could also demonstrate not just the organism, but rather we can also talk about the energy flow and also the biomass. So whereby ecological factors are represented in horizontal stack, which is stack represent either the number of organisms, the energy flow, or the biomass over there. So that is a better understanding we can create for what we refer to as the biomass. Sorry, the pyramid. So when food passes from primary producers, that is from the organism that make their own food, to the consumers, it passes through a series of channels, and that is the food chain or the trophic level. So each step, the one that makes the food is the producer. As it moves on to the last organism, we got each stage to be called as a trophic level. That is what we refer to as the the trophic level in the food chain. So food passes from the primary producers to the secondary consumers, then to the tertiary consumers. And the tertiary consumers are the carnivores or omnivores. Remember, omnivores can feed on flesh and also feed on the herbs. So it's by the carnivores, and normally we say carnivores, omnivores are part. That is when at the point in time they are feeding on flesh, not only the herbs. So it is estimated, so estimation by ecologists, that only 10% of energy is being given out. So he said that 10% of energy is lost during the process. So that is, it goes away, that is wasted. And that means that you can't get 100% from the food that you are eating. The reason is some will be as heat energy. You might not eat the entire food. When we give you, at least some will drop off. So every trophic level, 10% of energy is lost due to heat and maybe not eating, or and even the worst thing is that the sun, they say that we are making only 1% use of it. So 99% of the sun energy to the earth is being wasted. The reason is there are some deflections and reflections of the sun. And remember that the entire world is not covered with photosynthetic organisms. We have the water bodies, we have the land whereby it is bare, no plant there, and even the plant cannot convert all, because some of these are become reflected. Some will not be the spectrum of this photosynthetic organisms or pigment. So over 99% of sunlight is being wasted. We can utilize them into energy for plants. When plants also make their food, out of the 1% that they made their food, we only transmit only 10%. Sorry, 10% is being what lost, and the rest that get to us is being used by the organism. Some are also wasted. So it means that energy efficient in the ecosystem is not 100%. As we know that no machine is 100% efficient, so a lot of wastage goes into this energy transmission in the ecosystem. So ecology uses the pyramid to graphically represent this, and we call it ecological pyramid. Why pyramid? Because each stage the number reduces. So either it's a regular pyramid or an inverted pyramid. Whatever case it is a pyramid. So we have three types of pyramid. The first one is the pyramid of numbers. So here we are representing the distribution, the number of organisms in the ecosystem. But in this case, we are representing them as just numbers. We are using just numbers to represent the total number of organisms in that population, and we call that one the pyramid of numbers. Sometimes, instead of representing the number, we can use the biomass. Biomass refers to the dry waste, so I will not jump into the lesson. And the last one is also called pyramid of energy. That is whereby the energy that has been transmitted. Remember, we said 10% is lost due to heat and other contingencies, and only 90 is being transmitted. So what the amount of energy being transmitted could be a good replica and representation of energy flow, of distribution of organism in the ecosystem. So let's compare the fields of energy flow in the pyramid of number. So the pyramid of numbers, we are representing the number of, so for instance, let's talk about a food chain. This one is just three, assuming we had four. Okay, let me use based on what we have here. In one handout I have more than that. So we have here the pyramid of numbers. One organism is just here, so let's assume there is a grassland. So this could be a grass. There may be a grasshopper feed on it. Then let me say a fowl will in turn feed on the grasshopper. So we see we have so many grasses than the grasshoppers. The grasshoppers wouldn't be more than the grass on a field. That is naturally. So if we have more grass, maybe 1,500, sorry, 1,000,000, 1.5 million, or 1,500,000 of them, at least we will have lesser grasshoppers, which is approximately 200,000. But that is even too much, too many. So 200,000 feeding on them. Then in turn, how many fowls are we getting? Let me even say lizard, because we can't get 90,000 in such a field. Maybe how many lizard are we getting? 90,000 of them. So this means that there will be enough grasshoppers for the lizard to feed on, and there will be enough grass for the grasshoppers to feed on. So this means that there will be stability. If we have more food, than the organism. Even they will live in abundance. Remember, competition will reduce, so their competencies, their probability of them living or existing is very very high. They cannot survive. But when the food is too less or too little for them, what happens is that there will be competition. Some will die, and their reproductive capability will be reduced. So a time will come, there will be imbalance in the ecosystem. Some organisms will be extinct or they will die. So here you call it a regular pyramid of numbers. Now the point is, some organisms they are more. So for instance, if you are eating, let me say rice, and let me talk about yam that you have prepared. When you take one spoonful of rice, if you are to count, I'm sure you have about 100 to 150 or 200 of them on just one, maybe at 30 at least. It should be more than 30, maybe 50 to 100. But when you pick just one slice of yam, someone say, oh, me, I ate only one slice of yam. But when you go to some houses, the slice of yam is like someone full course of meal, because they will put it very, very large. Normally, one is a local type of the yam. So you say, oh, I ate only one yam, but before you realize that one yam, you could have divided into about four and get two portions out of it. Oh, I just ate one rice. So you ate only one grain of rice. I also ate one morsel of fufu. Who has eaten? It's one. But we see that one will get more energy than the other. So the pyramid of number doesn't become a good representation of the ecosystem. So, for example, amoeba, how many amoebae will make one living human being? Billions of them, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, a lot of them, because they are so small that we can't see, and we are made up of several cells. So the point is, how many lizards are in the environment? We say maybe 1,000 of them. If you put all the thousand together, their weight will not come close to mine or yours. So if you are saying that we have one cockroach over there and one human being, yes, it is one. Numerically, they are the same, but one human being could be equal to several of the cockroaches. So that doesn't give a good representation of the ecosystem. So another one came that we talk about the biomass. So over there we are looking at just the number. So here we are saying 1,500 of the grass. If you are to put goat here or sheep here, maybe this 1 million will not be enough for 200,000 of them, because just one bite, maybe one cow is taking about three of the grasses or 10 of them at one go, at one chew. So that will not sustain them for a year or maybe some months. So you see, the number couldn't represent a good state of the ecosystem. Then another thing is the biomass. So now we are not just looking at the number. If you are saying 1 million grass, let's weigh them. What is the weight? Let me weigh the grasshoppers. What is their weight? That's called the biomass. Biomass means biological mass, and we know the mass, the amount of substance in something. So the biomass talks about the weight. So there are some food that it will be more, but when you eat it, it doesn't last long, because the energy in that food is very very less. So let me say the weight of that food is very very less. When the food is more watery, it doesn't sustain you for long. But when it's a little bit dried up, that is when you have enough to sustain yourself. So the pyramid of biomass over here, we are not just looking at the number, but we're looking at the weight of the number. That's a dry weight, not the normal way, but meaning that the organism has to be killed or dead, then we dry it natural, not in the direct sunlight, then we get the weight. So assuming we are to weigh the grassland here, the grasses here, although they are 1.5 million, maybe their weight will not be as much as the weight of the grasshoppers here. It depends. If there's grasshoppers, it might not be equal to. If you are talking about sheep or cattle here, you see that it will be way more than this. So by numbers, someone will say, oh, we have 1.5 million of the grass, then we have only 200,000. So oh, it can sustain them. They have more than enough. But if you are looking the weight, and the organism here is a cattle, remember, one cattle can weigh more than this 1.5 million grass, depending on the type of plant. So the point is, you see that okay, though there are many, but the weight. If the cattle is weighing maybe 1 ton, sorry, 1 ton is to be maybe 350 pounds, 400 pounds, maybe 500 kilos or 200 kilos, then you have to appreciate that the grassland, the grasses can't measure close to that number that you are talking about. So here you see that okay, this doesn't give a better view of the ecosystem. That's the pyramid of biomass. Now you weigh the biomass of the preceding ones should be greater than the succeeding ones. So for instance, the biomass of the organism here should be lesser than those here. The point is so that they can always have enough energy or food from the succeeding ones. Oh, sorry, from those that they are preceding. So the preceding ones should be larger than the succeeding ones, and the succeeding ones should be larger than the one that they are preceding. So C3 here should be lesser, the biomass should be lesser than that here. So it means that oh, they have enough energy that they can get from here. So let me say food they can get from them. Now, the biomass also becomes another trouble because the biomass is just the weight. Sometimes you weigh some food, though it is very very large, but the caloric content, the energy is very less. So someone will ask a question, the person that ate oats, another person that ate the same weight of tea, who will become hungry in a very short time? I'm sure some will say oat, some will also say the tea, but the point is the one that ate the tea, or let me say Tom Brown, will be sustained far longer than the one that ate the oat, because oat is fiber, and fiber doesn't stay much in our gut. Fiber, they are very not digested depending on the type of fiber. If it's insoluble fiber, it will just leave the bowel very very easily, so they doesn't have a higher caloric content. But if someone ate Tom Brown, maize, carbohydrates, a higher caloric content, that means that the person will feel satisfied, or the satiety will be lesser than the fiber. When you eat a little bit of it, you feel like you are full, so easily you end up getting hungry. But the one that ate the Tom Brown, though the weight is the same, but the one that ate the Tom Brown will be kicking or be satisfied for a longer time. That is why the caloric content or the energy is important. We ate the same plate of food. Someone ate maybe rice, someone ate fufu. The one that ate fufu, though the weight is the same, but I'm sure the person can go longer, do a lot of manual work than the one that ate the rice, or let me say just the sandwich. So the point is here the energy is also very very important. So the energy is okay, though you are many, but the energy that we are providing is less. Though you are small, but the energy, the caloric content that we are getting from the organism is very large. Oh, it can sustain you. There are some food you see there, you just take little and you are good for the day. But some food you eat a whole bowl, but the next 2 hours you are hungry, you are craving for another food again. That is why the biomass become the best representation to see how energy is flow, how stable the ecosystem or the food chains are. So these are the three main: the pyramid of numbers, just talking about number of organisms at every trophic level. Then we talk about the pyramid of biomass, just their dry weight. Then the pyramid of energy, talking about the exact energy that is being transferred. And that will tell us whether there's a balance in the ecosystem, or at least there's a natural flow of energy through the various trophic levels. I'll point here. If you have a question or more insight to add, you are welcome to bring it on point. Ecological pyramid, I've explained the three main types of ecological pyramid. If you have a question at this point, I will pause and you can come in. So you can use this time to read something that I've projected from the screen here. And you have the document as well, so you can be going through, and you should have done that before joining the lesson live. If you have a question, I'll invite you to ask. If I see something here too, I'll try to explain to you. So as I said, the pyramid, the number decrease as we increase in the trophic level. As you are moving from the producer to the consumer, the number will reduce. So it's like in social studies, what I'm talking about, I think, is it work and productivity, whereby we look at the work, the labor force, and the dependency ratio. If in the family only one person is working, and about a larger family, 10 people are dependent on just one working force, in fact, things will not be better, depending on the amount of money the person is bringing. But comparatively, a family that five of them are working and they are just six or maybe seven, only two are dependent, at least things will be better for them, because five people are working, virtually or all things being equal, they'll bring more resources than the only one person working to feed about seven people that are not working. So that is the point here. So more producers, then it reduces so that there will be enough food for the tertiary consumers. And the point is sometimes these tertiary consumers turn up to be larger than these ones, because for predation normally it's the larger that feed on the smaller, all things being equal. So by conversion, normally these ones are larger in size than those down here. It's not always the same, but more often than not, that is it. So if I can take 10, maybe lizard, maybe 10, one fowl for a day and I'm full. It means that every day, if I'm killing one fowl or a week I'm killing one fowl, there should be enough of them. So if it's only one fowl, if I eat feed on today, that means tomorrow I will not have enough. So that is why we should have more of this than that, so that at least there will be balance and life will still continue for them. I'm still waiting for questions. If you have, you can bring it on board. If not, I'll just highlight some 2 or 3 points and I move on. So as I told you, the biomass is more accurate than the number, because it's not about what you have ate but the value of what you have taken in. It's like giving someone 10 1 cd notes and giving someone only one 20 cds note. It's only one, but my one 20 cds note is double that of your 10 1 cd note. That is the idea here. And then the value will come. So now if you're having 10 cds, the value is higher, but not as compared to 10 years ago. 10 cedis could have bought something precious than what the 10 cedis can buy today. So that becomes not the number, the energy, like the value, the face value of the money. So at first, what 100 cedis could have bought today, it can't buy, and that happened because that's how system are built because of inflation and things. So now, if it's even better than just maybe 1 or 2 years or so, but going back into 10 years, it will be better off than the 10 years than right now. So that is the idea we are trying. The energy that comes from the biomass or the organism we are talking about. So that's the pyramid of bio, as you can see here. So here we are not just looking at the number. So here we have 1,000 kilogram of producers. So by weighing all of them, we have 1,000 kilograms, and we have 100 kilogram, the weight of all the herbivores. So at least it is 1:10. So by conversion, as it rains, things are okay for them. They can still feed on this plant, and it will survive the ecosystem for long. It's like having just one plate of food and five people to feed on it. In fact, it won't be enough for them. So there should be enough food. They will eat, even keep some leftovers. Then at least life will be better for them. Then the primary carnivore, those that will feed on, they are just 10 kilograms. So at least they also have a tenth of it. Then the top carnivore is 1 kilo. So you see that here, at least it is 10% lesser as we move on. 10% lesser as we move on. So that become a very good ecosystem. Now look at here. We are getting an inverted pyramid in the ecosystem. So here we have producer, that is 4 gram per meter squared. That is the weight, and here we are measuring only one of them, or very few of them. Now the herbivores is 8 gram per meter square, and now look at the apex carnivore or predator, 12 gram per meter square. So here its weight has become larger than all of them. So it means that it will need more of this to produce more of that, and more of this should be able to feed this organism for a longer time. If we are having this and it's constant, it means that after feeding on this, that is all for the organism. There will not be enough provided for them. So that's an inverted pyramid of number. Sorry, an inverted ecological pyramid. This is an inverted pyramid of biomass. We also have an inverted pyramid of number. So we will see that one when, for instance, we have only one organism, like a tree. It's just only one. Then we have several birds, or let me say several butterfly or more feeding on the tree. You see, we have only one tree, but we can count hundreds or thousands of butterflies on it. Then we talk about the organism that will also feed on it. So it means that there will be a reduction. Sorry, there will be an increase in number as we go to the top. So for instance, we have a tree, a mango tree. Then we have a bird that will feed on it. We have maybe hundreds of them, 30, 50 of the birds. And if you have some mite or some bacteria that are feeding on the birds, you see that a lot of bacteria could be on the bed as or might on them. So that point is we have only one tree, we have hundreds of beds or tens of them, then we have millions of bacteria on a single bed. So it means that we have an increasing number as we go to the top, and that becomes an inverted because the base is only one. Now we are getting hundreds, thousands, and millions. That becomes an inverted pyramid of number. So that is for your information. Then we can talk about the most efficient one that we call the pyramid of energy. And that one we measure, remember we have the calorimeter or the bomb calorimeter for measuring the energy. So normally how to get the energy, we use the heat energy over there, we burn the organism, a sample of it based on the mass calculated, then we look at the energy measured by the calorimeter, then we know okay, this amount of energy from this plant, this organism, so that is the energy when you eat that organism or feed on it you will get. That is the idea about the pyramid of energy. So this talks about the actual flow of energy through each trophic level in an ecosystem. So scientists have proven that the calorie, when you eat 1 gram of fat, you get 4 kilojoule of energy. Then when you feed on carbohydrate, you are getting one. So that is what they've measured. So fat is 4 times the caloric value of a carbohydrate. So once they measure, so even if you are feeding someone fed on a fatty food, just 1 gram of it, you also fed on a carbohydrate food 1 gram. So in essence, the one that ate the fat will have 4 times energy than the one that fed on the carbohydrate because of the caloric energy or value out of it. So we all ate the same food, but because the person ate the fat, that's why when you eat a fatty food, normally in the wet season, and you are sessile, dormant, you don't move out, you don't even feel hungry throughout the day, and you become obese as a result because there's enough energy for you to use, and you're also sessile, you don't move, you become sedentary. So that means you have more energy fats reserve in your body. So this involves measuring the heat released or absorbed during chemical reactions, including the combustion of the organic matter. So you put the organism in a bomb calorimeter, we burn it, there will be a thermometer inside, it will measure the heat energy as it is in a closed system. They will know okay, 1 gram of this bread, when you burn it will produce amount of energy of this weight of this animal of this meat give out this, okay, then this is the amount of energy you will gain when you eat this kind of food. And this is a little bit way complex to do than the number and also the pyramid of biomass, but it's the more efficient. So if you want it the best way, you go in the hard way. So example is in a marine ecosystem. Energy flows from phytoplankton. Remember, phyto means plant, and planktons are organisms in the we have zooplankton, so they are smaller organisms that microorganisms in the water. Some are photosynthetic, some are not. So the one that show animal life are called zooplankton. Zoo means animal life. Then the phyto, I've told you the phytophyta refers to plant. So the phytoplanktons are, they are producers in the plant. Sorry, in the water aquatic habitat. So the phytoplanktons are the one that have chlorophyll and they can photosynthesize. The zooplanktons, they will rather feed on other organisms like the phytoplanktons as animal-like organism or heterotroph. So we have secondary consumers. Then two, so the fish will feed on the phytoplanktons and other organism. Then we have the shark. They are the tertiary consumers. So this type of pyramid is always a proper upright pyramid because of the energy we are building. So the pyramid of energy offers the most accurate. It gives the most accurate representation. So it tells you the value of it. So the energy, the amount of energy going. You took 3 apples. Someone just took maybe one, maybe 2 mangoes. I'm sure the one that ate mango, let me say even the same tray, 3 apples. One also ate 3 mangoes of the same weight. I'm sure the one that ate the mango will feel more satisfied than the one that ate the apple because of the water content and the higher carbohydrate and sugar or fructose in the mango than the fiber. So the apple is more like fiber. So you eat three, still you don't feel okay. You even get more hungry. But the one that ate mango, three will be good for you. So you see, it's the same weight, but the energy you are getting from the mango is way higher than the one that ate the apple. So that is a pyramid of energy. So now we're looking at the energy, not the amount that you ate or the weight of it. So if there's a question you can ask, today's lesson is very very short. If you have a question, you can ask at this point in time, or else by 8:30 today we will end the lesson. Then this will close the chapter to our week 7 studies. That's the ecology. God willing, next year or when we enter year 2 later this year, we will talk about a part of ecology. But for now, we are done with the first year ecological studies. Now, let me ask you, why should we get to know this ecological pyramid? How energy, since you have no question, means you understand. So let me invite you to answer my question. What are the relevance for measuring this of this ecological pyramid? What are the importance of them? Why do you have to get to know the number of organisms in the food chain, like the number of energy being transmitted and the weight of the organism in the food chain? Why should we do that? So this is like keeping stock or doing, how do you call it, portion control. If you are in the chef, or let me say food and nutrition, portion control. Why do we do such things? Keeping stock or portion control. That is the same as what we are doing right now in ecological pyramid. So anyone that is ready, the relevance of ecological pyramid, the importance of them, then we talk about this subtopic I've highlighted. Okay, thank you very much. Patricia just say, yeah, I think last time you were not online. So talk to us, Patricia.
Also, the importance of the ecological system helps help us to know the flow of energy and shortest ecosystem.
Okay, so that we know the amount of energy. And someone asks, what is the importance of knowing the amount of energy being flowed? That's a very good point. Okay, you've done well. If you have another, you can add it up, or someone else can come. So to know the flow of energy. And there's another follow-up question. What is the importance of knowing the flow of energy? Okay, any other person can just come on board. Thank you very much, Patricia. All right, we should know the pyramid of numbers and this. So normally we do portion control. Even in schools, they will tell you when you come, go and register at the dining hall. In the family, when you are not there or you travel, at least they will do a portion control. If we are 5 or 3, there's the cups of rice that we will boil, there's a slice of yam that we will boil or cook that day. If you get visitors, we have to increase the amount of food that we cook. So that is about, so that we're able to know. So now sometimes you will check, this rice cannot take us for the whole month, it's getting finished, so let me stock up next week or tomorrow. That is how we do that, so that we will see, will the environment be sustained. Now we are having a lot of fowl in your poultry farm with a very small amount of food. They will starve. So later, if you are bringing more of them, then you should increase the food quantity. So the point is, when we study these things, we're able to know whether some organisms are susceptible or they are susceptible to extinction. Now you go to a place, some animals are now becoming how do you call it, endangered because of how people feed on them. For example, elephant, they will take about 24 months gestation, and they will take about three, I think 10 years or so, 3 or 10 years, just to take care of their young one, a larger number of years. So it means that over their lifetime, that one elephant cannot give birth to maybe 10 baby elephant. So if you are feeding on one, killing one every day, time will come, their number will reduce drastically. So now some guys have become distinct. So if you study this, you realize that the amount of goat here are many. The grass or the farm, yeah, the grain is very very small. So if they are feeding on the field for a longer time, it will cause overgrazing. There will be no grass at this field. So when they feed here today, we take them to another place. It helps us to control some of these things. Now we have a lot of just one tree. a lot of birds in the area are coming there. So if you don't take it, they will end up killing that tree. So maybe when they come once in a while, let's sack them away, or let's plant more of those so that it can serve the bird community. So that is one of the reasons why we do this, so that we will know whether the ecosystem is stable. There's no imbalance over there, so that oh, the producers are many, so at least they can sustain the other consumers and things will free flow. When there's any imbalance, it will have a ripple effect. If all the grass be gone are gone, then the primary consumer, they will have no food, they will starve, their numbers will reduce. Now those that feed on them too, after killing them and eating them, since their numbers are reduced, you have an effect. So it's like you are going to eat and the person didn't prepare the food. We all have the effect. We all go hungry, and those what we are supposed to do, we can't deliver as such. So it will affect the ecosystem stability. So we have to see the energy flow in the ecosystem to see whether it is balanced and sustained. It also helps us to know the efficiency of energy in the trophic level. So now let's talk about this relevance of methods used in determining energy flow in an ecosystem. So remember we talked about this yesterday, that methods for determining energy flow in an ecosystem is the GATS examination, which is the second one, direct observation or questioning. How can I get to know the food that you eat or what you eat? I have to see you eating it. Or I have to ask you, Charlie, do you take this? Oh, yes, I do take it a lot. Yes, in the morning I took this kind of food. Then I know you eat it. Second one is gut examination. If the thing is in your stomach, you've eaten it, you can't prove otherwise. Or radioactive or tracer method, we can detect naturally this thing is there. So like having a metallic substance on you, the metal detector will detect it, it will beep. That shows that there's a metal on your body. So once we see that element in you, that means that Charlie, you do eat that thing. So what is the relevance of this method? And one point is it brings comprehensive understanding. So by combining these three methods, it helps us to understand very well how energy flows in the ecosystem. And this also help us in doing the pyramid of numbers and the rest. So help us to know, okay, this is the flow, this is the trophic level. These organisms, they do feed on this. This is how they get their food. So they are all primary consumers, they are all secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, because we have seen them, they feed on grass. So all the grass eaters, herbivores, will be on one trophic level. How did you get to know they feed on grass? You observe them, you get to know from their gut, or you also get to know from their radioactive tracing that you did. That is one good importance. So we give a lot of data, precise information to see that, okay, so that we can draw a very good pyramid, ecological pyramid, and even a food chain. Then ecosystem structure and function. Once we see the food that they eat, now you know, like going preparing the diet for people. Others say that they want maybe rice, others want ampesi, yam, others want this. And you see that the rice is not enough for the 50 customers or clients or maybe students. What do? You order for more rice, then you reduce the amount of yam that you buy. So that helps us to know the ecosystem structure and function. So now we know the feeding level, the trophic level. We know the organism, what they feed on and what they don't feed on. So we know that, okay, this organism, we have a lot of consumers. So if you don't get enough producers here, the ecosystem will not survive for a longer time. Either the organism will move, and we'll talk about this in population dynamics, that is next year or next in year two, whereby organism will leave because there's no food for them or there's a higher competition. So some will be emigrating from the land, so it will affect the structure and the function of eco, because each organism has its role. Remember ecological niche that they play. So when their number reduces, something will be lacking in the ecosystem. So when we study this, it helps us to understand the structure and functioning of ecosystem. So it helps us to know the relation between the different species and their roles. That's the ecological nature I talk about. So all these will help us scientists to gain a more holistic understanding of energy transfer and ecosystem dynamics, which we will study in year two, particularly known as population dynamics. That's the changes that do occur and the effect of those changes. If you have more ants in a place, something will happen. If you have more termite, it means there will be decaying a lot of things, and that land will also be fertile. So in the people of old, when they were looking for a land to buy, they will look at the one that has ant hills, that have a lot of these centipede and millipede and earthworm. If the land is dry or bare, you won't have enough earthworm and these termites over there. So these are things that we see that, okay, based on that, is the structure, that is the system over there. The next one is the impact of environmental changes. So when we monitor the energy flow in the ecosystem, researchers are able to assess the environmental changes, because the organisms and their role they play can affect the environmental changes over there, such as climate change or the introduction of invasive species. So for instance, maybe this a champion that we have, last time I mentioned the name, the Chromolina odorata, is an invasive species. It wasn't a native species of Ghana. From history, what I remember is one prime minister, is it Kutu a champion? I've forgotten his title, either colonel or retired. So Prime Minister Mr. Kutu a champion brought that in. And I remember that's what caused the 1983 starvation in Ghana here. So they found out that weeding around the high tension, the transformer for the electric poles, was a little bit difficult. So for them to weed it easily, they decided to be planting this Chromolina odorata or the champon around those so that easily they can weed, and that thing spread like hell in Ghana. So that before, once it's there, it just spread about. So it came here, they planted it, and it spread across. And remember that thing, once it's dried and we set fire, it burns seriously. So that is what causes major cause of the 1983 starvation that we've been hearing from our parents and older people. So that is not a native species. So we brought it here. Now it has invaded. So it's like you bring someone who is a new member into your class, and the person is now taking control of the class. The person cannot be controlled. Those are invasive species. They were not there. But when they came, things were comfortable for them. So they can just grow anyhow. That is how some weeds do. You've planted your cassava, your okra, your maize. Before you realize, just one weed came there, and the weed is now spreading over your farm. Or some animal, armyworm, they just came into your farm. Now they have occupied all your crops and they are eating it. So that become an invasive species. You've invaded privacy. You just entered a new community. Things are okay for you. Now you are doing very better even than the native species. So this helps us to know some of these impact in the society. Then management and conservation. Once we know the food that organism eat, the numbers here and that, the trophic level, we're able to manage and conserve. So now we realize that we have a lot of herbivores. The grass is very, very low. So what do? We don't allow them to overgraze. When they feed them in the morning, the next time they are not coming there. Now we see that we have normally in your house, when you have enough of days, what do? Sometimes you kill some of the organisms or you sell some so that there will be enough food. So those who are in the poultry, when they have enough of these animals, what do? They sell some of them out, then they go and buy feed for them. You can't keep all of them there, they will starve, all of them will die. So what do? You sell some out. One, the feeding ratio will reduce. You get enough money to buy more feed for them. So we're able to manage and conserve, because you know that I need 10 bags of this feed to feed 10,000 of the birds. I don't have that 1,000 bags or 100 bags. Then what do? Let me sell some. Now I'll need just 80. I'll even get money to buy multiples of the 80 to feed the ones that are coming. So why did you get to know? You know the statistics, the organism there, so you can manage and conserve. That is why normally you do stock. Your parent will check what amount do you have here, and students you do check to, hey, the amount of money that I'm having. If I don't call mommy today, normally when I call mom, the money comes in the next day or 2 days, or maybe just that day. So you will check the money will get finished. So let me give a call so that by the next 2 or 3 days I will receive a parcel, or at least I will get money being sent to me, then I'll go and withdraw. So these are the things that we do check. If you don't check your account, if you don't check the food or the items in your chop box, you will not know when they are getting finished. Then you will end up mismanaging. and finding yourself wanting. So these are the reasons why we should know the amount of organism in each trophic level by using the three main uh, systems or techniques, that is the gut examination, direct examination, and the radioactive or tracer method. And this also help us to identify new species. So since we are observing and looking at what they feed on, once we meet a new organism that feed on something else, we'll be able to identify the invasive species. If you keep your stock, you get to know things. Maybe an item that doesn't belong to you is among your things, so you ask for the person that decided to keep it there, then at least you give it out or you have a feel of it. So if there are some questions, you can bring them on board. Today no question has been asked, and that is not but it doesn't mean that you understand everything. Sometimes asking question also means that you are following and you are grasping more and are understanding. So if there are genuine questions, you can do ask before we end our week 7 lesson tonight. Yes, a hand just came up. Patricia, very good. You can ask your question. A summary of it. Okay. Did you join lately? I don't know. Okay, I hear. Any other question? Then I'll continue. If you have a question, raise up your hand. Then I will know how best I will answer that of Patricia. So she said I should do a summary of the ecological pyramid. So ecological pyramid, we are just looking at some factors in or distribution of organisms in the ecosystem. So one, how do we get to know the distribution of organisms over there? We can first do it by trying to get the number of organisms there. So we count them. How many organisms do we have in the ecosystem? Maybe we have 20, we have 30 of them. So now that we have the number of organisms, we go say, okay, we have 20 sheep, we have 15 days. So that is the number, that is the flow. So pyramid of number talks about only the number of organisms in the ecosystem. And I've told you that the number does not mean the replica. For instance, we have 20 infant or toddlers. Then we have two adults. The food that the two of us will eat will be more than the toddlers, the food that they will eat. So the number alone should not be so number. So when you are preparing a food for people, you look at their age and even their health. When people are sick, they don't eat that much. When they are like in the labor for like construction men, at least they are working, they'll eat a lot. So then ask the person, how many people am I cooking for? But I have to know the age. 10 children cannot eat the food that even 3 adults will eat. So the pyramid of number talks about the number of organisms. Producers, how many are them? You count them as individual. Consumers, how many are them? That's the pyramid of number. Then the pyramid of biomass, we are not looking at the number, the weight. So normally the weight is in proportion to the food that you eat. Normally the the more your weight, the more the amount of food you eat. That is the idea. But some people they are very very slim, but the kind of food they eat, even the fat people cannot take it or they can't take it. So normally we look at the pyramid, the biomass. That is okay, not just the number, but what energy are you having that you are giving to the organisms? That is better than the number. The words are okay. Sometimes the weight does not mean it. The thing could be very very weight bulky, but the essential thing will be small. It's like going to buy kinky nowadays in Ghana here. You go and buy it, you ask yourself, is 10 cities or 5 cities? That means 3 cities is just for the leaves that is to cover it. Then the 2 cities the actual kinky. So it look very very bigger, but you open it up, the energy over there, the food is very small. So the biomass couldn't give a good view of the energy that is being supplied over there. Then the best that came was pyramid of energy. So what energy am I getting? So if we have more energy at the producer stage, it means there's more energy for the primary consumer. Then that coming up, they should be also smaller so that they can get more energy from them. Then it can sustain you. So that is the pyramid of numbers or ecological pyramid. When so the ideal way is the base should be larger, then it reduce going to the top so that we can depend on them. So that is a brief summary I can do. If you are okay, fine. If you are not, you can bring a follow-up question, or someone else can bring your question if there are any other questions to be asked. All right, I'm waiting for the next few seconds. If you have a question, please you make it very very fast. Yeah, Mary Kate Chen. Okay, Kate.
Please, if humans are omnivores, which part of the pyramid do we fit?
Very good. So it depends on the particular one that we are creating. So normally when we are creating, they will not keep omnivores as a stage. They will rather make it first trophic level, second, third, fourth. So we will put the organism there. If we are using humans, then in the food chain we say maybe grass or maize, then we put human there. I'm sure we are ending it, because if you're saying human, then who feed on humans? Will you say lion? It can happen that way, but it doesn't work normally that way. So once humans will come, then it will end it. Or you will decide, okay, I'm looking at the rice plant in the community, or the maize plant, maybe the mango plant, and then I'll talk about the birds. Then from the birds, maybe I'll talk about the eagle, then or maybe snake. Then from snake I'll talk about maybe man, or maybe another organism, or the fowl. So it depends on the organisms you are looking at. So it's not that maybe producer, then we go to herbivores, then we go to carnivores, then end it. That could also be a trick. If you are doing it that way, then the omnivores will be in between the herbivores and carnivores. If you are looking just that, then to be producers, then you count all producers, or you can single out a particular producer like the maize plant. That is fine for you. If you're using producer, then you count all the producers in the ecosystem. Then the next one is herbivores. Here omnivores will not have a separate group, because for them they can be, then you count all the herbivores including the omnivores we are talking about. Then we come to carnivores, and over there too you include the omnivores there. So omnivores cannot have a separate level or trophic level on their own when we are grouping them in groups. But when we are giving them names as organisms, then they can be anywhere depending on how you are looking at the food chain. Mary, is a very good question that you asked. I'm sure you get a better understanding now. Any other question? At least that shows that we are learning, we are improving. That's why normally I appreciate when you ask questions. It says a lot of ways. Things that I couldn't tell you, or I think you know, the question will come out, clarify, then we all improve as we move on. So any other question? I'm waiting for the next 2 or so seconds. The question should be ready by now, or we will end the lesson. Yeah, Maricate.
Please, what about decomposers? Because decomposers feed off like both dead plants and animals.
Yeah, I think the last time I made it aware to you that decomposers play a very key role in the food chain. But the sad thing is that usually we don't add them to the food chain. I'm not sure you've seen the food chain whereby you end with maybe fungi or bacteria. I'm sure, Mary, you've not seen something like that, but they are there. So the sad thing is that they form part of the food chain. They are very key. If they are not there, after finishing one cycle, we are done. After eating one food, there will not be a conversion, recycling for the cycle to continue. So they repeat the cycle. But the sad thing is that ideally we don't add them to the food chain. So that is the point. So if you are to add them, then they will be the last. That is the point. So they form the last part, but usually we don't add them in the food chain. As you can tell me, there's a lot of food chain that you see on the internet or in your books. You don't see decomposers there. They will end with a tertiary consumer. But decomposers are not tertiary consumers. They are the recycle. They turn things up. Very, very good question once again. Any other, bring your question. Let's clear it out. So thank you very much for giving us a very successful study. So by God's grace, we finished week 7. So have a very good time. Thank you for being with us for tonight too. See you in the next one. We will talk about digest. So check about week 9. That is about digestive system. That is our next topic that we will start treating next week Sunday. Bye.